Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the last lecture on the living marriage. We'll call it the outro or the epilogue. We've gone through an introduction, 36 chapters, talking about marital intimacy. To summarize, for those people who didn't join me for the rest of the lectures, first of all, I recommend to go through all of them because even if the ideas seem trivial or redundant, um, listening to me is always enjoyable because I have unique stories and unique takes. But I'll give you a basic synopsis of what the author has tried to push through this entire book and my reaction to that. Basically, the author has said throughout this book that marital intimacy is a good thing. People think in the Jewish world, like Christian theology, that inherently is a bad thing to be together with your wife. Obviously, a woman who you're not married to, according to Judaism, is not a good thing. But it's a good thing. However, the point of it and the point of enjoying it, it's not bad to enjoy it. It could be bad if you enjoy it too much or you enjoy it in the wrong way when you're not supposed to enjoy it. But the point of enjoying it is not for the enjoyment itself. It's a means to an ends, and the ends is unification. The purpose of marriage. Why do you get married to a woman? You get married to a woman because a man is only half a person and a woman is only half a person. Together, they're a complete person. Like a person was created, man was created together. Man and woman was created from man. So basically, a complete man and woman are when they're unity and when they get married. And specifically, the highest time, the most prominent example of their unity is when they're together in the bedroom. And at that time, that's the holiest time of their marriage because that's where not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, they're joining together, the man and the woman part of them. And when you have that completion, the sense of shlemus, completion, then it brings Hashem, brings God into your home. And that's the ultimate point of marriage. Maybe one of the most important mitzvahs in the Torah. It doesn't say it's the most important, but it certainly is a very important mitzvah. There's so much importance given to marriage and to weddings and shalom bayis and things like that. Like my personal take on the author's understanding of the bedroom is, I mean, I agree partially. I obviously I don't agree with the side that says it's not supposed to be enjoyed. You're supposed to enjoy as little as possible. You're supposed to do it only for the woman's sake, and you're supposed to approach it with a lot of fear and not try to enjoy it as least as possible because inherently it's evil. So there are some people who think that. I'm going to bring today the words of the Shulchan Aruch, what he says, which seem to indicate that's the truth. Um, However, I believe inherently it's good for the enjoyment itself. The enjoyment is the ends into itself, and this is just human nature, mankind. I mean, you ask any man or any woman in the world, what's the greatest possible enjoyment that they look forward to when they're younger years, or they reminisce of nostalgia when they're older, of their younger years. What's the thing they talk about the most? Everyone talks about the opposite gender, the opposite sex. Men or women, man talk about women talk about men. And the highest form of enjoyment is in the bedroom when they unify in the bedroom, not because of unification, but because it's enjoyable, the whole process. It's not just the actual intercourse, but everything leading up to it, from the dating to the bedroom, but everything that every step along the way is a journey to the ultimate goal, which is the bedroom, which is the most enjoyable part of the man woman relationship. Of course, even verbal, any type of relationship with a man and woman can be enjoyable. So that's the greatest thing we have, and marriage is a great way um, of stabilizing a situation of man and woman. So the woman is always available for the man is always available for the woman. I'm not a proponent of monogamy, tell you straight out. I mean, Torah believes in polygamy. Modern day Western society thinks that monogamy is the way to go. Well, the governments will tell you that, but in practice, in reality, everyone, no one, maybe the women want to be married to one man, but all men want to be married to more than one woman. Most are not a lot of them are capable. Not some are not even capable of getting one woman, but most men need um, they need a novelty in the bedroom. You know, now it's either you cheat on your wife, or you don't get married and you have multiple girlfriends, or you get married and unfortunately a lot of people cheat on their wives and leads to divorce. Then you marry another woman, same process, because inherently the needs of men are not being met in Western society. That's what I believe. The Torah acknowledges this also. That's why the Torah has polygamy. For whatever reason, Rabbeinu Gershom made many years ago a takana that men should only be allowed to marry one woman. Um, First of all, 1,000 years are over. Second of all, it's not the idea of the Torah. The Torah never believed in that. And all the Avos, especially Yaakov Avinu, had multiple wives and he married sisters. So Torah doesn't believe in it. And the reason that Torah allows polygamy is because Torah acknowledges the needs of man. It's not just a want that man has more than one woman. It's a need. Men need more than one woman. Obviously, it's very difficult even to manage one woman, but that's the motivation you have in life, that you want to excel in your business, you want to excel in becoming a strong man so that you'll be able to handle more than one woman. The greatest prize you can have in this world, and I believe in Olam Haba, in the next world, is women. And to the extent that you're a real man and you're strong and you're financially capable, that will be ultimately, if society was correct, the possibility of having as many women as you desire in a fair, where everyone knows you're not cheating on the woman knows, but a woman would rather marry a man and have rival wives if she knows she's getting a real man than marry a man who's a weak man, who's not a real man. Everyone would really, even though they'll tell you they'd rather have their own men, but if their man is not a man, then they're not married to anybody. They need a real man, and there's very few alpha males in the world. The very few alpha males really get all the women. That's just the way it is, and that's the challenge of being a man. It's kind of all or nothing. Either you're great and you get all the booty of this world, or you don't. But that's why life is so difficult. But I believe that the bedroom and intimacy and sexuality is the highlight of life. That's the best thing in life, and it's good for itself. And the belief that you should try not to enjoy it as much as possible, which the Ravid says, even though the Ravid says it's a good thing, he says you should leave a little bit of your taiva unfulfilled in the bedroom. I don't believe that at all. I believe you should try to enjoy it as much as possible. And really, I believe the bedroom doesn't start until you differ from this author. Because as long as you're with this author and you think that intimacy is overall is a positive thing, but there's limitations, you shouldn't enjoy it fully. And there are certain times when you have to be careful when you're enjoying your imagination, or your imagination is telling you you're interested in it. As long as you have to be careful and worried about that, you're never going to be able to fully enjoy it. So you have to throw all those worries aside, forget about them. Only when you can realize that the bedroom is there entirely for your enjoyment, then you can start enjoying the bedroom and you can start experimenting in the bedroom. I talked briefly about, the different things that you think non-Jewish couples do, but there are Jewish couples that do these things, in the bedroom. I'm not going to get into it, things like strip poker and things like that, lingerie, and there's so much wisdom there is in the world. Wisdom there is how to enhance your marital relationship in the bedroom, and there's so much. I'm not going to get into it. There's so many different ways with foods, different things you could experiment, different positions you can experiment. I'm not here to be a sex counselor to teach you about these things. I'm not the most proficient myself, to be honest with you. But the point is that only when you realize that and you recognize that, will you be able to turn your focus to saying, okay, now I can enjoy the bedroom fully. What can I do to enhance it, to make sure I'll enjoy it even more, right? Get another steak, right? If I like one steak, I'll eat another steak. What can I do to make the food better? Not the food, the woman, the enjoyment in the bedroom better. And you can only do that once you realize that the author is wrong here. Because I'm going to summarize what he says over here in the appendix. There was one thing that caught my eye, two things that caught my eye. I briefly scanned through it. He quotes a big question, a deeper look at the spirit of intimacy, a big question: why not fear? In lessons 2 and 3, we learned that our tradition from generation to generation is that proper intimacy must include joy. In fact, in lesson 2, we learned that the Chazal described the mitzvah owner as a time of her simcha. This is also what I learned from all my teachers. It's clearly seen from the story of Rav, also expressed in the words of the Rambam and the Ramban. Yet, if we open the Shulchan Aruch, we'll see a completely different picture. So this is the words of the Shulchan Aruch. We're almost up to there in Shulchan Aruch. Yomi Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Snias 240, which is Aruch Chaim 240. We're up to 215 there. He quotes the words of the Shulchan Aruch. When you're together with your wife, you should do it with fear and trembling. The Gemara recounts an incident about Rebbe Lezer. Now, it's obviously not literal what the Gemara is talking about, but it says he was Magal Tevech Machasatefa. He uncovered, seemingly, a little bit of his body, and then he covered another part of his body. Vidomek Mishakafo Shade. To him, marriage relations was like a shade, a demon forced him into doing it. He felt as if a demon forced it. In the worst way, I'd rather not do it, but the demon forced him to do it. And he was very careful not to enjoy. And the Shulchan Aruch then provides three explanations, the author writes, of to appear as if being forced by the demon. What does that mean? And concludes they're all valid, and the one who cares for his soul should fulfill all of them. The one who cares for his soul, the one who's a Baal Nefesh, someone who cares for his soul, should all of them. Now, I don't remember exactly what all three of them are. He quotes two of them. One of them is that they should do it in their clothes, not take off their clothes. And the second one is that it should be very quick. And I think that's the third one. The second one is in their clothes. The third one should be very quick. And the first one, I don't remember exactly what it was. This is truly a huge question because on everything that seems to be clear in the Gemara. This whole book is proving that it's a good thing. You should enjoy it, at least partially. I asked the Torah generation how they understood these words. He asked all the Gedolim. He's very close to all the big rabbis. And they gave me at least 10 answers. They didn't have one universal answer. How do you understand the Shulchan Aruch? This is, codified, halacha, the codified laws of Judaism, tell you how to act. That's the Shulchan Aruch is the final word. Mishnah Berurah is an explanation of the Shulchan Aruch, but the Shulchan Aruch is the final word of what the Rabbanim or Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to teach us. And he tells you, you're supposed to be fearful like a demon is forcing you, and you should rather not be doing it. A demon is forcing you. You have no choice, right? So it goes against everything he says in the book. They gave 10 answers. However, I was not satisfied with any of them. So the author wasn't satisfied with what the Gedolim said. I would prefer to leave the words of Shulchan Aruch as a question. So he himself, after going through the whole book and bringing from different Ravids and Zohars and Maharals and Chazals that it's a good thing, at least partially. The Shulchan Aruch, it's a very tough question. So let's leave that for a second. I want to go to the end where his fifth appendix, a deeper look, wisdom of the heart. He tells you he's not just writing this book. He plans on writing some more books, the living, marriage, but he's living, and he wanted to call it the living knowledge of the heart or something like that. And he bases the rest of his perspective on Judaism and life basically this: a brief introduction to knowledge of the heart and knowledge of the head. He wants to differentiate between knowing something in your head and knowing something in your heart. Obviously, he says that knowing something in your heart is preferable to knowing something in your head. Although wisdom of the heart is a multifaceted topic with many different aspects, let's explain some fundamental difference between wisdom of the head and wisdom of the heart. Wisdom of the heart is based on a value system of, in bold, good and bad, as can be seen in the words of Malachim. One, where Shlomo Melech asks for a heart that can judge between good and evil. And Hashem responds by giving him wisdom of the heart. Wisdom of the head, however, is the ability to distinguish in truth and falsehood. Bold. Truth and falsehood. Bold. Head-based decision-making generally results from calculations based on future outcomes. The heart makes decisions based on its understanding of relationships in people and the relative value of things in the world. Here's an example of the difference between the two wisdoms. You're working on the computer and your acquaintance enters the room to ask you a question. You know you can still listen to the question and answer him without stopping your work for a moment. Head thinking would logically say it's inefficient to stop working. Why not kill two birds with one stone? But the understanding of the heart would say that if a person comes before you, you must respect him. It's simply not possible to continue working when this impedes respecting your friend. How would you like it if you came to ask someone a question and they couldn't even take the time to look at you? Turning your attention to your friend is not only an emotional reaction, rather deep in your heart is the seat of wisdom which understands that it is proper to respect others. So he makes this fundamental distinction over here, and he's going to write more books. I don't know if he wrote more books. This book was put out a while ago. I don't know if he wrote more books along the line, because his whole premise, this book, is differentiating between good and bad as opposed to differentiating between truth and falsehood. And this is, I think, where the author went wrong and why I disagree with him. Um, when you have truth and falsehood, usually when you make decisions in life, there's really two options, right? There's only two options usually, right? There's not three or four or five options. I mean, usually, you're able to narrow it down to two options. If you think about it, sometimes you might have like five options, but if you think about it legitimately, there's two options. Usually they're opposites of each other. To do this or to do this or not to do this. That's really what it comes down to. To do it or not to do it. That's really every decision in life. To do it or not to do it. Right? Even if you have 10 different chocolate bars in front of you, right, and you have to choose which one, there's still a question to do it, to indulge or not to indulge, and that's really a fundamental question of religion. Christianity believes that indulging in marital relations is inherently evil. So it's better to be a priest, it's better to be a pope. We can't expect everyone to be the pope, but really inherently there's sin in what you're doing. So the question that the author and everyone is grappling with in Judaism and modern day Judaism, where oftentimes we struggle, Rabbanim struggle to distinguish in Christianity and the way the Torah views marital relations. Is it good or is it not good? Is the bedroom a good thing? Or is it better if I didn't have to do it, right? So from the words of the Shulchan Aruch that I just quoted before, it's very clear he made a decision about this. He concluded, based on one of the statements in the Gemara, that it's a bad thing, right? Now, this author has other statements in the Gemara, but it's a good thing. But the Shulchan Aruch is the final word as far as Jews are concerned about a topic, about how we should view what Moshe Rabbeinu, what Hashem commanded us in the Torah. Obviously, the Torah is multifaceted, and the Shulchan Aruch codifies it and tells you clearly what you should think. He says very clearly, there were other mentions in the Gemara of this topic, and he chose this statement of Rebbe Eliezer, and that was his statement about marital relations, that it's something that you should do like a demon is forcing you. You should do it because you have an obligation to your wife. He says elsewhere, the Shulchan Aruch, that the chiyuv of ona for your wife is paying off a chov, right? It's like if you owe someone money, it's not fun to owe someone money, but you have to pay them back. So the same thing when you get married, you have an obligation to your wife, but you should not enjoy it. The best thing, really, you have to get married because you have to have kids. But in terms of the bedroom, once you get married, you have an obligation to make your wife happy, because women are, more base than men. They enjoy all the superficial things in this world. Men who have intellect should be thinking about Torah all day. But a woman, you have to fill her needs. The man, he doesn't have any needs. His need is for Torah. That's basically what the Shulchan Aruch says. That's a lot of, and he even quoted in the last chapter, he left off the end of the real book by saying a story where there was a certain big Talmid Chacham, maybe a Rosh Hashiva, who was teaching all his students that it's evil, the bedroom. And he personally hadn't been together with his wife in 7 years. And it come to sin to let out semen, many times based on this, because he felt he asked his wife to pardon him from the obligation, and he felt it was legitimate to be concerned. Moshe Rabbeinu did that, so it was a good thing to do that, and he was teaching all the students about this, like that, And this author says, no, I have a whole book written for you, and he tells you this whole book over here why he believes it's a good thing. Now, he doesn't say it's not yes or no answer, right? The point is the author never gave a yes or no answer. He never said, the question was, are you supposed to enjoy it or not? And Shulchan Aruch says no. The author doesn't say yes. He says yes, but. And that but is a big problem. But, yes, but you should enjoy it, but with certain caveats, right? Like he quotes from the Raavad, you shouldn't enjoy it fully, right? You shouldn't enjoy it, to be careful to identify when it's really something that's a need for you and something which you're just fabricating from your imagination. That the Yetzer Hara is tricking you. The whole last section of the book dealt with the Yetzer Hara trying to trick you, even with your wife. Sometimes it's forbidden to be with your wife if the Yetzer Hara is trying to get you aroused for no reason, or your imagination. So he gives an answer, yes, it's a good thing. Not like the Shulchan Aruch. He's confused by the Shulchan Aruch, which is really the last word in Judaism on this topic. But he says, no, the Gedolim had it right, or at least the Gedolim he spoke to. Good, but. Now, that's exactly what he says over here. He's not interested in truth and falsehood, right? Because truth and falsehood is a yes or no question, right? Good, or is it, are you supposed to enjoy it or not? Yes or no? Shulchan Aruch says no. He doesn't say yes. He says yes, but. Because he's saying, he's not answering that question. He's saying there's a third option, yes, but, which is good and bad, right? When you leave decision making and you fail to make a decision, that is worse than making the wrong decision. So the Shulchan Aruch, yes, they made the wrong decision in my opinion. It's the wrong decision. We don't take the Gemara literally. That's not what the Gemara meant. We have to figure out a deeper level what it meant. The author's right. We should search a little deeper. There is good aspects to it. But the Shulchan Aruch is better than this author because the Shulchan Aruch at least took a side. It's evil. This author never took a side. He says, should you enjoy it? Yes, but sometimes, in some ways, under certain conditions. So once you do that, you've not made a decision, right? The decision is either do you enjoy it fully or do you not enjoy it at all? That's the decision. It's all or nothing. That's how all decisions are in life. That's a bechira chavshus in life. That's the way it works, right? You always have two choices in bechira chavshus. You have, if you narrow it down, it's really two choices, and they're opposites of each other. And you have to make a choice. If you don't make a choice, that's worse than making the wrong choice. If you make the wrong choice, right, you can realize you made the wrong choice, and you can do tshuva. You can fix it. And what also is good about making the wrong choice is that at least you're taking a side. So if someone tries to argue with you, right, you're open to a discussion. You can discuss it with that person because this is the side I believe in. I'm taking a side. I believe in it. And I'll try to bring proof A, B, C, D, E to prove what I'm saying is right. Prove my side is right. However, if you don't make a decision, that's what leads to cancel culture because you don't want to acknowledge that you are making all your calculations and your cheshbonos. The reason you're making all these calculations and cheshbonos, yes, but, yeah, blah, 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 is because you're too weak to make a decision. He's too weak, the author, to just admit it's a good thing, unilaterally. You should always enjoy the bedroom as much as possible. There's no restrictions. It's a completely good thing. Imagine, not imagine, don't worry about the Yetzer Hara. There's no Yetzer Hara over here. The Yetzer Hara tells you to be fearful about not enjoying fully or not enjoying when it's your imagination. That's what the Yetzer Hara is doing. The answer to the question, the correct answer to the question is yes, enjoy it as much as possible. And it's not easy. It's not easy. Even the author was thrown off. So the author has failed to make a decision. And that's the worst because now the author will never be able to argue. You can't argue with this author anymore because he's got it all figured out. He's got all the details. Yes, but, right? It's a balance act. It's a balancing act. This last chapter, it's about how do you find the right path? You got to balance this and this. It's like weighing, it's like a measuring scale. Weigh a little bit like this. You get a little tipsy after a while. It's like Purim. Adlo Yada. When you think something is good, it could be bad. It could be bad, it could be good. You never think about the world in terms of bad and good because that's not making a decision, right? If I decide, okay, I should enjoy it, but this is bad and this is good. This is a good part, this is a bad part. I've not made a decision. I'm somewhere in that gray area. And there's two problems. First of all, right, you'll never be able to do tshuva because you didn't take a side in the first place. Never think you're wrong. You'll make cheshbonos, you'll make calculations while you're right. And the second problem is that you can't argue with a person like that. It's called cancel culture. People don't take a side, right? Gender identity, boy or girl. There's two options, boy or girl. I'm, biologically a boy, but I identify as a girl. That's what it is. Yeah, but. No, you can't argue with that because it's not one of the sides. So what are you going to bring proofs? The biology says boy or girl. I don't care. I have a different way of seeing the world, So you lost your ability for debate. There's no way to debate cancel culture. You can't debate cancel culture. They'll just cancel you. They don't want to talk about it because they have everything figured out. And the reason they don't want to talk about it is they're too weak to admit that they did the worst possible thing, which is not make a decision. And that is the folly of this author. And he tells you at the end of this book, he differentiates in good and bad. And once you enter it into good and bad, bad is good is bad. We don't know the difference. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. You're never really making a decision. You've lost your compass, your moral compass on life. You've lost bechira chavshus. The worst outcome of decision making is not to make a decision. Some say it's also making a decision, but it's really not making a decision because you can't argue with that person. He'll cancel you, and there's nothing to debate anymore because he's created his own category. He's created something that doesn't exist, his own new category of what he thinks the truth is about this matter. And the truth is, everyone knows the truth. There's two options. You can either pick A or B. One is right, one is wrong. If you pick an option, you could do tshuva, you could fix it, or we could argue with it logically and prove to you why it's wrong. The Shulchan Aruch, bad. Okay. So I can argue the Shulchan Aruch. Wait, Relezer, maybe it's meant something else in that case. There's what to argue about. But once you side with, no, it's good. Okay, so what? Oh, you made a decision. It's good. Let's enjoy it fully. No. No. The purpose of the bedroom is to unify. It makes up a new thing over here. The enjoyment is to help you unify and to make a completion of man and woman based on whatever sources he has. That wasn't the question. The question is it evil or is it not evil? Is it good or is it a positive thing or a negative thing? And he's saying it could be good if you use it for unification. It's getting a new category. That's what led the author, in my opinion, to create an entire book. And apparently he either created or plans on creating other books surrounded around this false notion. Apparently at some point in this author's life, I believe, maybe right away when he was given the ability of Bechira Kafshis, he was too weak to make a decision, as most people are. Most people fail not just because they made the wrong decision, because they are too weak to make a decision, because it's hard to make a decision. The author is awfully bad at making the decision, didn't make a decision in this book, created a new category of the point of marital intimacy as something to unify, some spiritual aspects there, and he tries to bring proofs. He brings all the proofs that make sense, but you can't argue with him anyway, because if you prove that it's a good thing, he says, yeah, it's good, but, and if it was a bad thing, yeah, it's bad. In that case, it's bad, right? It's good. In that case, it's good. There's no way of arguing, because he's always right. He's always right. You can't lose the argument, right? Is it good or bad? One person says it's bad. No, you're wrong. Sometimes it's good. And I say it's good. No, you're wrong. Sometimes it's bad. So he never made a decision. That's my biggest problem with this book. That's why this whole book, you can throw in the garbage, if you ask me. Now, listen, there are Divrei Chazal in here. I wouldn't throw it based on Divrei Chazal, because the words of the Gemara are the words we got Torah Shabbat Peh, we got Moshe Rabbeinu Har Sinai. They need further inspection to try to figure out the truth. I have, in my opinion, on what I believe the truth is. I've gone through a lot of the Divrei Chazal and tried to show that it wasn't what he said it meant. It meant something else. But besides for the Divrei Chazal over here, this book is a complete mistake, and it's even worse than the Shulchan Aruch, believe it. The Shulchan Aruch's opinion. It's worse than the Shulchan Aruch's opinion about this matter, because he didn't make a decision. He makes this new category, and he'll cancel anyone who tells you otherwise. So that's my perspective on this book. I bought it because I thought it would be an interesting way to talk about this topic. I hope you were satisfied with what you heard. Or maybe you vehemently argue. But the point is that you could vehemently argue, because I took a side. It's going to be hard pretty much to argue when the whole world believes it's a good thing. But, there are certain religions, Christianity and, other religions, and maybe some interpretation of Judaism. The Shulchan Aruch interpretation of Judaism says it's a really bad thing. So please feel free to argue with me. You can leave your views in the comment section below, and tell me I haven't heard any comments about this book. I put out, this is my 39th lecture on this book, and I haven't even heard one comment on this book. I haven't got one comment, not even one comment. I think people that listen to it, there must be some people that listen to it out there. Not too many, I don't think, but the people that listen to it, first of all, it's hard for me to understand people are not listening to this. This is the most interesting topic. If I was scouring the internet, I was just browsing the internet, I came across a lecture series like this, I'd be all over this series. I'd be listening to every single minute. You know how many people take this book out from the place I keep it in the base medrash and start reading it on Shabbos? They take it out and they start reading it. People are interested. Older men, younger men, they're all interested in this. So it's obviously, if you're scouring the internet, you hear something about this. You hear someone so good looking and well spoken like me, so opinionated like me, giving a lecture series about this, and so detail oriented, and such nice stories that I add, personal stories that I add in, and personal perspective, and you don't listen to it. That's hard for me to imagine. If you're listening to it, it's hard for me to imagine that you don't have something to comment about it. People are just probably too embarrassed to comment about something like this. It's embarrassing to talk about, but that's Ben Zion Lang. I talk about everything and anything. And that's why I took this book, because this is the hardest thing to talk, most uncomfortable thing to talk about. But I did talk about it. That'll be the conclusion. I want to segue to the next book that we're going to learn. We're going to learn I mean, maybe it's just me. I hope more people will join. But I have a book. It's called The 10 Dumb Mistakes, really dumb mistakes that very smart couples make. It's a book about Shalom Bayis. It's a book about getting along with your spouse. Not really focused, I don't think, on marital intimacy too much. Just talk about how to avoid bickering with your spouse, and things like that. Small, little, petty stuff that comes up in your marriage. How to avoid that, ruining your marriage and getting divorced. Again, like I said at the beginning of this book, I believe that 98% of the success of a marriage is based on marital intimacy. 2% is based on this Narishkeit, this stupid stuff that the author, I already started reading it with my wife, the other book by Rabbi Zion Schaefer from Muncie, from the Shmooze. It's not something I'm so interested. People are probably more interested because they're not afraid to talk about something like this. Shalom Bayis, everyone's favorite topic to talk about. Really, they'd rather talk about marital intimacy, but that's a taboo. You can't talk about that. So I just did talk about it for 39 lectures. But this is what something people could talk about. They could relate to these things. But again, I'll emphasize at the beginning of the next book that 98% of the success of your marriage, my Rosh Yeshiva told me 95%. I believe 98% is dependent on the bedroom. What I've learned from this book is that 98% is divided into two categories of 49%. Why is your success in marriage depend on the bedroom? 49% of that 98% is dependent on each of you enjoying the bedroom, because the reason I believe you get married, not like the author says, to unify, to become man and a woman. The real point of marriage is to be able, in Judaism at least, you can't have premarital sex. So to be together with a woman together with a man, to enjoy it. And if one or both of the partners are not enjoying it to the max, because again, enjoying the bedroom is not just a want, it's a need. You got to enjoy it fully. And if they're not enjoying it, that's going to hurt your marriage. And, it relates to the other book, because a lot of times sometimes people don't even know that's what's bothering them. And they start complaining about their spouse, about not being neat or not being on time, or disrespecting them. That's what, they'll talk about. They're not doing favors for them. They'll talk about those things. And even to marriage therapists, sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes they do know, and they're just pinning it on these small things because no one feels comfortable talking about the bedroom. Even to marriage therapists, they're not going to say it. Most people don't even know, because they don't even know what they need in the bedroom. Most people don't know. They know deep down what they need, but they're oftentimes afraid to express it to the other person and not comfortable with the other person. We'll talk about in a second. And therefore, because they're not comfortable with each other, because one or both of them are awkward outside the bedroom, inside the bedroom, so they don't get what they need. That's 49% of the success of marriage. 50% of the marriage is being satisfied because it's so important. It's such a basic need of marriage. The other 49% is more relevant to the other book, but it's not because you get into small fights because this person puts his jacket on the chair and leaves it there, doesn't hang his jacket up and things like that, or this person won't clean the dishes or something like that. That's not the reason. The reason is because you don't feel comfortable in the bedroom, because you're not successful in the bedroom. And being successful in the bedroom means you're completely comfortable with each other in the bedroom. Listen, a lot of men and women are awkward, especially on dating. People in the frum world, men and women don't really speak at all until they start dating. They can be very awkward around each other. Some men are not so awkward. Some women are not awkward. Women are less awkward than men about the relationship, but a lot of men are very awkward. And even out of the bedroom, very awkward. And certainly, if they're very awkward out of the bedroom, in the bedroom, they're even more awkward. And there are a lot of men that are not awkward around women, especially they get to know them and they feel comfortable after they're married with them for a year, 2, 3 years. However, they'll still remain uncomfortable in the bedroom. People are very uncomfortable, even talking about the bedroom, certainly actually performing in the bedroom. People are very, very embarrassed about this thing. They're embarrassed about their own shortcomings in this thing, about they feel guilty that they desire certain things and maybe are afraid to ask it from their partner, or they're just embarrassed that they're not satisfied with their partner, what their partner is doing for them, or whatever reason, they just feel uncomfortable in the bedroom. It's very uncomfortable to talk about. I'm the only one who doesn't feel uncomfortable to talk about it, but it's very uncomfortable to talk about this. So that carries over to the rest of your marriage, and therefore, outside of the bedroom, even if you're not awkward outside the bedroom, because you're awkward inside the bedroom, there's a friction, there's an awkwardness between you as a couple, and you're not going to communicate well. And that's really what gets into this next book, is that couples don't communicate well. They don't communicate well. You don't communicate well with someone you feel uncomfortable with. And even if the uncomfortable is only, certain nights when you're together, that suffices. That's the main part of marriage. If you're not feeling, even though you're feeling a little uncomfortable in the bedroom, that's going to be a big lack of communication outside the bedroom, whether it's about finances, whether it's about raising kids, whether it's about just getting along with each other, getting into fights with each other, about, idiosyncrasies of each other, any little thing that gets on your nerves, right? You're not going to communicate it in the proper way. Sometimes people won't mention it. They'll be vater, very common in the firm world. It's just vater. Vater means you don't communicate. That's what it means. You feel uncomfortable communicating a lot of times. Sometimes it's the right thing not to say anything, someone can't change, but most of the problems in marriage and shalom bayis outside of the bedroom is because people can't communicate well. They don't communicate well. If you don't communicate well with your spouse, so it's going to be very difficult. And even if you go to a marriage counselor, right? And really the problems are not in the bedroom. Maybe the bedroom's okay. You're guessing right in the bedroom, whatever. You feel satisfied. Both partners feel satisfied in the bedroom. Because there's awkwardness in the bedroom, they won't feel comfortable communicating about the other problems they have outside the bedroom, which the author is going to talk about in this book, dumb mistakes that couples make. And it comes to a lack of communication. But you can't fix that by going to a marriage therapist. Marriage therapist will help for that particular problem. You have a particular problem, right? The husband always gets on my nerves. He always gets on my nerves because he's always picking his nose. I don't know. Whatever it is, he gets on my nerves. So I'll go to the marriage therapist. Okay, husband, you like to pick your nose. She doesn't like it. Okay, let's work out some sort of compromise. Okay. But that couple is not comfortable talking to each other about it because they lack communication, Or my wife, she doesn't, put enough salt in, the soup. She doesn't put enough salt in the soup. Okay, talk to her. Tell her how much salt you want, and this marriage therapist will tell them how to communicate. But they're going to have to keep on coming back to the marriage therapist for every problem because the marriage therapist is their way of communicating. They're not going to pay a lot of money to the marriage therapist. He's not going to solve their problem. Just because you solved one communication problem does not solve. You'll have a million other communication problems you have to solve. So you're throwing money in the garbage to go to a marriage therapist. So it's unfortunate the situation. Like the only thing you could do is try to make it not awkward in the bedroom and have better communication. So the topics that the author is going to discuss in the next book and the problems and the answers that he's going to give you to those problems are not really going to be the real answers because the real answer is tied to the awkwardness in the bedroom, which engenders lack of communication, which causes, right, couples to get bicker and to get into small fights about petty things because they can't, they don't feel comfortable enough to speak about it in a truthful and genuine way with the other spouse. But then again, there's 2% of marriage that's dependent on the actual, disturbing things that one of the spouses does to the other person that makes them, they don't give them respect, they don't give them love, they're late, they're early, things like that. The stupid things they talk about in the book. So 2% of marriage is dependent on that. The other 98% is dependent on the bedroom, but it is somehow related to this book because either it comes out as excuses because they don't feel fulfilled in the bedroom, or they are actual problems that result because they feel awkward around each other because they're awkward in the bedroom. They don't communicate well out of the side of the bedroom. So that they're real problems. The only way to fix that is through the bedroom. So really, the series I'm giving is just to talk about things, the other 2%, and just talk about, try to bring people on board that they can actually have conversations with me about this. And because this is stuff that people would have open conversations, don't mind leaving a comment and, telling you their opinion about it. But really, it's sourced in 98% of marriage of the bedroom. But what can I do? This is the way of the world. It's taboo. We can't talk about it. So we'll talk about the other 2%. Anyway, that should be coming up in an intro, I believe, hopefully on Thursday of this week. Hope you enjoy this lecture series. Give me a thumbs up, for the lecture series in general. And say thank you, Ben Sion, for such an amazing lectures. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next book.